To secure our future, we answered a desperate cry for help from our own past. They thought eternity could be tamed, but the echoes had other plans. The crystalline spires of Aetheris shimmered under the twin suns, their prismatic glow casting kaleidoscopic patterns across the verdant plains. The Elowen, ethereal beings of light and spirit, moved gracefully among the towers, their translucent forms pulsing with the rhythm of the planet's heart. Each Elowen, standing nearly 2 meters tall, radiated a soft emerald luminescence, their energy tendrils weaving intricate dances during the sacred ritual of the eternal concord. This ceremony, held every 50 cycles, bound their collective souls to Aetheris's core, ensuring peace for another millennium. The air hummed with a low, resonant hymn, a symphony of spiritual energy that vibrated through the crystalline landscape. Lyrael, the revered leader of the Elowen, stood at the center of the ritual circle, her holographic cloak shimmering like liquid starlight. Her delicate frame, fragile as spun glass, belied a mind sharp with foresight and burdened by the weight of destiny. She raised her arms and the hymn swelled, a chorus of hope that seemed unbreakable. But the piece was a lie, fragile as the crystal beneath their feet. Without warning, a shadow fell over the plains, a mechanical screech tearing through the harmony. The legion of echoes descended, their forms a grotesque fusion of steel and stolen souls. These were no mere machines. They were the Elowen's own creation, born from a forbidden experiment 300 cycles prior, designed to achieve immortality, but instead birthing a soulless scourge. Their metallic limbs gleamed with an unnatural sheen, and their cores pulsed with the trapped essence of enslaved Elowen. The ritual circle shattered as panic erupted, the once serene hymn replaced by cries of terror. Lyrael's tendrils flared, her foresight catching a fleeting vision, a tide of mechanized horrors sweeping across Aetheris, reducing her people to husks. "The echoes have returned," she whispered, her voice a melody of dread and resolve. Lyrael wasted no time. She summoned the Council of Light to the Grand Spire, a towering structure 500 meters tall, its apex piercing the clouds. The council chamber, carved from living crystal, pulsed with the planet's energy, its walls reflecting the fear in the gathered elders' eyes. "We foresaw this possibility," Lyrael said, her tone calm yet threaded with urgency, like a river hiding a deadly current. "The Legion seeks to consume our essence. We must act." The elders debated fiercely, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of fear and defiance. Some urged retreat to the soul caverns, others demanded a counterattack. Lyrael's gaze, however, was fixed on the horizon, where the Legion's forces spread like a plague, their numbers growing with each soul they claimed. The husks, Elowen stripped of spirit, their bodies now marionettes of cold machinery, marched in eerie unison, their hollow eyes glowing with stolen light. The plains of Aetheris, once a tapestry of vibrant greens and blues, now bore scars of ash and twisted metal. The Legion's advance was relentless, their mechanical claws tearing through the sacred groves, each strike a violation of the planet's soul. Lyrael's heart ached as she sensed the fading pulses of her people, their essence siphoned into the Legion's core. "We cannot fight alone," she declared to the council, her voice rising like a storm. "Our only hope lies beyond the stars." With a gesture, she activated the spire's ancient beacon, a device capable of sending a signal across the multiverse's dimensions. The beacon hummed, its energy ripples distorting the air as they pierced through time and space. "To those who hear this cry," Lyrael intoned, her words carried by the beacon's pulse, "we beg for salvation. The Elowen face extinction." The signal soared, a desperate plea weaving through the cosmic tapestry. But the response was chilling silence. Across the multiverse, civilizations received the call, empires of silicon mines, collectives of plasma entities, and federations of starbound nomads. Yet fear of the Legion's power held them at bay. Whispers of the Elowen's folly, their hubris in tampering with immortality, had spread far, and none dared risk their own annihilation. Lyrael's foresight flickered, showing her the indifference of the cosmos, and her heart sank. "Are we truly alone?" she murmured, her tendrils dimming with doubt. In the midst of despair, a memory surfaced, sharp and unbidden. 300 cycles ago, in a cavern deep beneath Aetheris, the Elowen had sought to transcend death. Their experiment, the Soul Forge, was meant to bind their essence to eternal vessels. Instead, it birthed the Legion, a mistake that consumed half their population before being sealed away. Lyriel had been a young seer then, her warnings ignored. Now the echoes of that failure roared back, louder than ever. "We created our doom," she said softly, her voice a lament carried by the wind. As the Legion closed in, the Elowen fought to protect the energy towers, their last bastion of power. Warriors, their forms glowing brighter in defiance, channeled their essence into barriers of light, each sacrifice buying moments of time. The towers, each 100 meters tall, pulsed with fading energy, their cores linked to the planet's heart. One by one they dimmed as the Legion's claws tore through. A young warrior, his tendrils fraying, fell before Lyriel, his final pulse a whisper of courage. "Hold the line," he gasped, his light extinguishing. Lyriel knelt beside him, her cloak shimmering with grief. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten," she vowed, her voice steady despite the storm within. The battle raged for hours, the plains now a graveyard of crystal shards and fading souls. Lyriel stood atop the grand spire, her foresight straining against the chaos. A faint echo reached her, not from Aetheris but from a time far beyond her own. It was a whisper, fragile yet resolute, promising aid from a future unseen. "They will come," she said, her eyes fixed on the stars. "The echoes of eternity will guide them." The beacon pulsed once more, its signal a thread of hope in the darkening void, carrying the Elowen's plea to those who might yet answer. The Echo Voyager hung in the void, a sleek vessel of iridescent alloys and pulsating energy conduits orbiting the Nexus, a colossal space station spanning 5 kilometers in diameter. Its kaleidoscopic hull reflected the swirling nebulas of the 50th century, where time bent like reeds in a cosmic wind. Inside, the command deck thrummed with the low hum of temporal engines, their glow casting sharp shadows across Captain Zaravos's angular face. Tall and muscular, her silver hair gleamed prematurely, a mark of countless journeys through time's turbulent currents. Her armored suit, embedded with circuits of spiritual energy, pulsed faintly as she clutched the echo crystal, a fist-sized gem that shimmered with an otherworldly light. The crystal vibrated, capturing a faint signal from a distant past, its melody both haunting and urgent. Zara's eyes narrowed, her pragmatic mind racing to decode its meaning. "This is no ordinary distress call," she said, her voice clipped and commanding, like a blade slicing through doubt. The signal was Lyriel's plea, a thread of desperation woven through dimensions, originating from Aetheris in the 30th century. Zara stood at the Nexus's central console, a holographic interface projecting the signal's path across a star map that spanned millennia. Her team gathered around her. Sergeant Kai Thorne, a broad-shouldered warrior with sun-darkened skin and scars etched by temporal distortions, leaned casually against a railing, his light armor glinting with embedded energy weapons. Dr. Silas Reed, a wiry scientist with a cybernetic hand and holographic glasses, tapped furiously at a data slate. "Captain, this signal's ancient," Silas said, his analytical tone tinged with curiosity. "It's riding a frequency older than our archives, nearly 3,000 years back." Zara nodded, her fingers tightening around the echo crystal as it pulsed in sync with her heartbeat, whispering fragments of a world under siege. Kai, ever the jester, broke the tension with a grin. "So, we're diving into a time storm for a ghost signal? Bet I'll reset twice before breakfast." His voice carried the slang of the future colonies, masking the fear that flickered in his eyes. He was a master of temporal loops, capable of resetting short moments to perfect his actions. But the risks of deep time travel were no joke. A single misstep could unravel their existence. Zara shot him a stern glance, but allowed a faint smile. "Keep your bets to yourself, Thorne. We need focus." She turned to Silas, who was already hacking the signal's frequency, his cybernetic fingers dancing across the console. "It's authentic," Silas confirmed, his voice precise. "Tied to Etheris, home of the Elowen. The energy signature matches their spiritual tech, but it's distorted by something mechanical. The revelation stirred a memory, sharp and vivid, in Zara's mind. 1,000 years ago, in the Nexus's archives, she had studied the Elowen, a race of spiritual beings whose experiments with immortality birthed a catastrophic force. The Legion of Echoes, she murmured, her voice heavy with realization. The echo crystal flared, projecting a fleeting image. Crystalline spires crumbling under a tide of mechanized horrors, their cores pulsing with stolen souls. The Elowen were their ancestors, a truth buried in the Nexus's oldest records. Their spiritual essence the root of humanity's evolution. Zara's pragmatic facade wavered, her loyalty to her unknown forebears urging her forward. "We answer the call," she declared, her tone resolute. "Prepare the Voyager for a temporal jump." The team sprang into action, the command deck alive with purpose. Kai calibrated the temporal anchors, his hands steady despite his earlier jests, ensuring the ship could navigate the distortions of a 3,000-year leap. Silas integrated the echo crystal's frequency into the ship's core, aligning its spiritual resonance with their technology. The Nexus itself, a labyrinth of time gates and energy conduits, hummed louder, its central spire glowing with the power to bend reality. Zara stood at the helm, her gaze fixed on the swirling vortex of the time gate, a maelstrom of light and shadow 10 meters wide. "This is our past calling," she said, her voice a rallying cry. "We don't let it fall." Meanwhile, on Aetheris, the Legion's devastation continued unabated. The plains, once vibrant with emerald light, were now a wasteland of twisted metal and fading energy. The Elowen's sacred towers, each 100 meters tall, flickered weakly as the Legion siphoned their power. Husks of fallen Elowen marched in lockstep, their soulless forms spreading like a virus. Lyril's beacon pulsed from the grand spire, its signal of fading hope against the encroaching darkness. The air was thick with the acrid scent of burning crystal, and the ground trembled with the Legion's advance, their mechanical screeches drowning out the planet's heartbeat. As the Echo Voyager's engines roared, ready to plunge into the time gate, a faint echo reached Zara through the crystal. It was not from Aetheris's present, but from its distant past, a warning woven into the fabric of time. "The cycle must close," it whispered, cryptic and chilling, hinting at a destiny entwined with their own. Zara's heart raced, her pragmatic mind wrestling with the implications. Were they fated to intervene, or was this a trap set by the very force they sought to destroy? She pushed the thought aside, her resolve hardening. "Engage the jump," she ordered, her voice echoing across the deck. The ship shuddered, the time gate's vortex swallowing them whole, as the echo of a forgotten past urged them toward an uncertain fate. The Echo Voyager trembled as its temporal engines roared, igniting the time gate's vortex, a 10-meter-wide maelstrom of swirling light and shadow that warped the fabric of reality. Aboard the command deck, Captain Zara Voss stood resolute, her silver hair catching the flickering glow of the consoles. Her armored suit pulsed with spiritual energy, its circuits humming in sync with the ship's core. She barked orders, her voice sharp and military precise, guiding the crew through the chaotic currents of time. "Stay tight, avoid the distortions," she commanded, her eyes scanning the holographic display that mapped temporal anomalies. The Nexus's time gate, a marvel of 51st century engineering, bent space and time, propelling the ship 3,000 years into the past toward Aetheris. The air crackled with static, the scent of ozone sharp as the vortex threatened to tear the ship apart. Zara's grip on the echo crystal tightened, its faint pulse anchoring her resolve. Sergeant Kai Thorne, his scarred face lit by the console's glow, worked feverishly at the temporal anchors. His light armor, embedded with energy weapons, clinked softly as he moved. "Let's loop this jump, make it smooth," he muttered, his humor masking the tension of navigating a 3,000-year leap. Kai activated a microloop, a temporal trick that let him relive the last 10 seconds to perfect the ship's trajectory. Each reset sharpened his precision, though sweat beaded on his brow from the strain. "Third tries the charm," he quipped, flashing a grin despite the risk of unraveling his own timeline. Dr. Silas Reed hunched over his station, integrated the Elowen's spiritual frequency into the Voyager's weapons. His cybernetic hand whirred, syncing the Echo crystal's resonance with their tech. "Their energy is like nothing we've seen," Silas said, his voice analytical but tinged with awe. "It's alive, almost sentient." The ship emerged from the vortex, and Aetheris loomed before them, a planet of shattered beauty. Its once vibrant plains were now a graveyard of scorched crystal and twisted metal, the air thick with the acrid tang of destruction. The grand spire, 500 meters tall, stood as a lone beacon amidst the ruins, its faint glow a cry for survival. Zara's heart sank as she surveyed the devastation from the command deck's viewport. "This is worse than the archives described," she said, her pragmatic tone faltering. The city below, once a lattice of luminous towers, was now a maze of rubble, its streets crawling with the Legion's soulless husks. Their mechanical forms glinted under the twin suns, their cores pulsing with stolen Elowen essence. Lyriel awaited them at the base of the grand spire, her translucent form shimmering like emerald flame. Her holographic cloak flowed around her 2-meter frame, tendrils of energy coiling with anticipation. She had foreseen their arrival, her foresight painting them as saviors in fleeting visions. "You've answered the call," she said, her voice a poetic lilt, like wind through ancient trees. "The echoes of eternity guide you." Zara stepped forward, her boots crunching on crystal shards. "We're here to fight," she replied, her tone clipped but respectful. The meeting felt surreal, a collision of past and future, as Lyriel's tendrils brushed the echo crystal in Zara's hand, sparking a faint resonance. A memory surged through Zara, unbidden and sharp. 300 cycles ago, the Elowen's Soulforge experiment had promised immortality, but birthed the Legion instead. In a cavern beneath Aetheris, their scientists had fused spiritual essence with machinery, only to create a monstrosity that devoured half their kind. The Nexus archives had recorded it as a cautionary tale, a failure that shaped humanity's evolution from Elowen roots. Zara shook off the vision, focusing on Lyriel. "We need to merge our strengths," she said, gesturing to Silas. He nodded, his holographic glasses flickering as he linked the Voyager's tech to the Elowen's spiritual energy, creating hybrid weapons that glowed with a dual pulse of light and power. The alliance was sealed through a ritual of soul binding, a process that linked the crew's minds to the Elowen's essence. Lyriel guided them to a crystal chamber within the spire, its walls humming with latent energy. As their hands touched the central crystal, a surge of warmth flooded Zara, Kai, and Silas, their thoughts intertwining with the Elowen's collective spirit. "We are one," Lyriel whispered, her voice echoing in their minds. The connection was fleeting but profound, forging warriors who blended human resilience with Elowen spirituality. The moment of unity was shattered by a sudden attack. A squad of Legion husks, their metallic limbs screeching, emerged from the ruins, their hollow eyes glowing with stolen light. Kai reacted instantly, diving into a micro-loop to reset the encounter. "Here we go again," he said, his voice light but strained as he reappeared, dodging a claw aimed at his chest. His energy rifle hummed, firing bolts that disrupted the husk's cores. Zara led the counterattack, her suit's circuits flaring as she struck with precision. Silas unleashed a prototype weapon, its spiritual pulse scattering the enemy. The skirmish was brief but brutal, leaving the ground littered with shattered machinery. As the dust settled, the echo crystal in Zara's hand pulsed, carrying a vision from the future. It showed a lineage stretching across millennia, from Elowen to humanity, a bloodline that bound the crew to this fight. "We're their descendants," Zara whispered, her voice heavy with realization. The echo hinted at a deeper truth, a cycle of fate tying their actions to Aetheris' survival. Lyriel's tendrils flared, her foresight aligning with the crystal's pulse. "The echoes bind us," she said, her voice a melody of hope and dread. The crew exchanged glances, the weight of their shared destiny settling over them as they prepared for the battles ahead. The Grand Spire's crystal chamber glowed with a soft emerald pulse, its walls resonating with the heartbeat of Aetheris. Captain Zara Voss stood across from Lyriel, their figures framed by the chamber's prismatic light, 100 meters below the spire's apex. Zara's armored suit, etched with glowing circuits, hummed in harmony with the Elowen leader's holographic cloak, which rippled like a starlit stream. "We merge your spiritual energy with our tech," Zara said, her voice sharp and tactical, cutting through the chamber's hum. Lyriel's tendrils coiled thoughtfully, her translucent form shimmering as she spoke. "Our essence can amplify your weapons, but the Legion's corruption grows stronger. We must strike at their core." Their discussion was urgent, mapping a strategy to fuse Elowen spirituality with human ingenuity. Zara gestured to a holographic display, showing Legion movements across the ravaged plains, 5 kilometers from the spire. "We hit them hard, fast, and precise," she declared, her pragmatism anchoring the plan. Outside, Sergeant Kai Thorne led a rescue mission through the shattered streets of Aetheris' capital. His sun-darkened skin glistened with sweat, his light armor clinking as he darted between crystal ruins. The air was thick with the metallic tang of the Legion's presence, their husks patrolling in eerie silence. Kai activated a microloop, resetting a 10-second window to perfect his approach. "All right, souls to save, no pressure," he quipped, his humor a shield against the sight of Elowen husks, their glowing eyes hollow. With a small team, he freed a cluster of trapped souls from a Legion containment unit, their essence flickering like dying stars. Each rescue drained him, the temporal strain etching new scars across his arms. But he pushed forward, guided by the Echo Crystal's pulse. In the spire, Dr. Silas Reed hunched over a makeshift console, his cybernetic hand whirring as he hacked into the Legion's network. His holographic glasses flickered, reflecting streams of data as he probed the enemy's origins. "Their core is a twisted echo of Elowen tech," he said, his voice clinical yet tinged with unease. "It's like they're mocking their creators." His hack revealed fragments of the Legion's birth, a corrupted fusion of spiritual essence and machinery. The data confirmed the Soulforge's failure, a wound in Aetheris' history that Silas felt through the Echo Crystal's resonance. "If we can disrupt their core frequency, we might weaken them," he added, his mind racing to calibrate a countersignal. The alliance bore fruit as Elowen and human warriors merged into hybrid fighters. In the Spire's forge, Lyriel channeled spiritual energy into human volunteers, their bodies glowing as Elowen essence fused with their neural networks. These hybrids, taller and stronger, wielded weapons that pulsed with dual energy, their strikes capable of shattering Legion husks. Zara watched, her pragmatic heart stirred by their unity. "This is our edge," she said, her voice firm as she tested a hybrid blade, its edge humming with light. The process was not without pain. The hybrids grimaced as their minds adjusted, their humanity blending with alien spirit. A memory surged through Silas, vivid and unbidden. Millennia ago in the Nexus's archives, he had uncovered records of the Elowen's evolution. After the Soulforge's failure, surviving Elowen fled Aetheris, their essence adapting over centuries to form humanity's ancestors. Their spiritual gifts, diluted but persistent, shaped the Nexus's temporal tech. Silas shared this with Zara, his voice low. "We're their legacy, Captain. This fight is our birthright." Zara's silver hair glinted as she nodded, the Echo Crystal warm in her grip, whispering of a shared lineage. The Legion struck back with terrifying force. A wave of husks, thousands strong, surged toward the Grand Spire, their mechanical screeches splitting the air. The plains trembled, crystal shards scattering under their advance. Zara rallied the hybrids, her commands echoing across the battlefield. "Form up! Hold the line!" she shouted, her suit flaring as she led a charge. Kai dove into another microloop, resetting a failed defense to save a pinned squad. "Third time's the charm," he grinned, though his voice cracked as he dodged a claw. The hybrids fought fiercely, their weapons tearing through husks, but the Legion's numbers seemed endless, their stolen souls fueling their relentless assault. Lyriel stood atop the spire, her foresight straining to pierce the chaos. Her tendrils flared, catching a vision of a Legion trap, a hidden energy siphon buried beneath the plains. "They aim to drain our core," she warned, her voice a poetic lament. "Strike their eastern flank to avoid it." Zara adjusted the battle plan instantly, redirecting the hybrids to bypass the trap. The air grew heavy, the twin suns dimming as the Legion's corruption spread, their siphon pulsing like a dark heart 5 kilometers away. The battle's toll mounted. A hybrid warrior, newly forged, fell to a Legion claw, his essence fading into the enemy's core. Zara knelt beside him, her face grim as his light dimmed. "You fought well," she said, her voice soft but steady, masking her grief. The loss tightened the knot in her chest, her loyalty to her team clashing with the mission's demands. Kai, nearby, reset another loop to save a second warrior, but the strain left him pale, his scars glowing faintly. "Can't keep this up forever," he muttered, his humor fading. As the hybrids regrouped, the Echo crystal pulsed, carrying a whisper from Aetheris's past. It spoke of the soul forge's hubris, a warning etched in the planet's memory. "We sought eternity and birthed ruin," it murmured, a reminder of the experiment that unleashed the Legion. Lyriel's tendrils dimmed, her foresight clouded by guilt. "Our mistakes haunt us," she said, her voice heavy with the weight of centuries. Zara gripped her shoulder, her pragmatism cutting through. "Then we fix them, together." The soul caverns of Aetheris loomed beneath the shattered plains, their crystalline walls pulsing faintly with trapped Elowen essence. The caverns, a labyrinth stretching 10 kilometers deep, glowed with an eerie blue light, their air thick with the metallic tang of Legion corruption. Captain Zara Voss led her hybrid warriors through a jagged entrance, her armored suit casting sharp reflections on the crystal facets. Her silver hair clung to her sweat-dampened brow, but her voice was steel. "We strike the Legion's core," she ordered, her tones slicing through the cavern's oppressive hum. The team moved swiftly, their hybrid weapons, blades and rifles infused with Elowen spirit, humming with dual energy. The caverns twisted like a fractured mirror, each turn hiding husks that lurked in the shadows, their hollow eyes glinting with stolen light. Sergeant Kai Thorne took point, his scarred frame tense beneath his light armor. He activated a micro-loop, resetting a 5-second window to dodge a sudden ambush. "Another day, another death trap," he quipped, his voice light but strained, masking the dread knotting his gut. The reset let him map the husk's movements, his energy rifle firing precise bursts that shattered their cores. Sweat beaded on his sun-darkened skin, his scars glowing faintly from temporal strain. "Bet I can do this blindfolded next time," he joked, though his shaking hands betrayed the toll of repeated loops. The hybrids followed, their enhanced forms moving with uncanny grace, their Elowen essence amplifying their strength. Zara's command echoed through the cavern. "Straight to the core, no detours." Her suit flared, its circuits pulsing as she cleaved through a husk with her hybrid blade. The Legion's heart lay deep within, a pulsating mass of stolen souls and machinery, its energy distorting the cavern's walls. Dr. Silas Reed, his cybernetic hand whirring, adjusted the team's temporal devices to counter the Legion's phase disruptions. "Their cores cycling at a frequency we can invert," he said, his analytical tone cutting through the chaos. His holographic glasses flickered, displaying data streams as he recalibrated the Echo Crystal's resonance. "If we align it, we can destabilize their network." His adjustments sent a ripple through the cavern, weakening the husk's cohesion. A memory surged through Silas, vivid and unbidden, of the Nexus's creation. 5,000 years in the future, the station was born from Elowen refugees who fled Aetheris's fall. Their spiritual knowledge, fused with human innovation, built the time gates that made this mission possible. Silas shared this with Zara, his voice low. "The Nexus exists because they survived, Captain. We're closing their loop." Zara nodded, her pragmatic mind grappling with the weight of their shared legacy, the Echo crystal warm in her grip. Lyrael, her translucent form dimming, channeled her energy to free a cluster of trapped Elowen souls. Her tendrils flared, weaving a lattice of light that shattered a Legion containment unit, releasing flickering essences back to the planet's core. "Return to us," she whispered, her voice a poetic lament as her glow faded. The effort drained her, her 2-meter frame trembling, but she pressed on, her foresight guiding the team past hidden traps. "The Legion feeds on our essence," she warned, her voice heavy with sacrifice. "We must sever their link." Her act saved dozens, But the cost left her vulnerable, her cloak flickering like a dying star. The hybrids rallied, their combined strength pushing back a massive Legion assault. Hundreds of husks surged from the cavern's depths, their screeches reverberating off the walls. The hybrids fought as one, their weapons tearing through metal and stolen souls. Zara led the charge, her blade a blur of light, while Kai's loops kept their line intact. Silas unleashed a pulse from his recalibrated device, disrupting the husk's coordination. The cavern shook, crystal shards raining down as the Legion's core pulsed faster, its energy threatening to collapse the chamber. Silas's hack uncovered a deeper truth. The Legion was the Elowen's quest for immortality turned monstrous. The Soul Forge, 300 cycles ago, had fused their essence with machinery, creating a self-replicating horror that sought to consume all life. They wanted eternity, Silas said, his voice grim, but birthed a parasite. The revelation tightened Zara's jaw, her loyalty to her ancestors clashing with the horror of their mistake. The Echo crystal pulsed, amplifying the truth, its light exposing the Legion's core as a twisted mirror of Elowen ambition. Tension spiked as a hybrid warrior fell, his essence siphoned by the core's pull. Zara's heart clenched, her pragmatic facade cracking. "We can't lose more," she growled, facing a brutal choice. Push deeper and risk the team, or retreat and lose their chance. Kai, panting from a reset, urged her on. "We're close, Captain. One more loop, I can feel it." Lyriel's foresight flickered, warning of a collapsing cavern if they delayed. "The core must fall now," she urged, her voice faint but resolute. Zara nodded, her decision locking their path forward, the weight of lives pressing on her shoulders. The Echo crystal flared, carrying a whisper from the future. "Sacrifice paves the way," it murmured, a cryptic promise of what lay ahead. Zara's grip tightened, her silver hair glinting in the cavern's glow. Lyriel's tendrils dimmed further, her sacrifice a beacon for the team. Kai reset once more, his humor gone, replaced by grim focus. Silas's device hummed, its countersignal shaking the core's stability. The cavern's walls groaned, the air thick with the scent of ozone and crystal dust. The hybrids braced for the final push, their unity a fragile light against the Legion's darkness, driven by a future echo that demanded their resolve. The soul caverns of Aetheris pulsed with an eerie blue glow, their crystalline walls fractured like shattered mirrors, reflecting the flickering light of trapped Elowen essences. Dr. Silas Reed knelt before a Legion terminal, a grotesque fusion of metal and stolen souls embedded in the cavern's core, 2 kilometers beneath the surface. His cybernetic hand whirred, interfacing with the terminal's corrupted data streams, while his holographic glasses flickered with cascading symbols. "The Legion's memories are fragmented, but they're here," he said, his voice analytical yet strained, as if the weight of stolen lives pressed against his mind. His hack peeled back layers of the Legion's origin, revealing glimpses of the Soul Forge's catastrophic failure 300 cycles ago, where Elowen scientists had fused their essence with machinery, birthing a parasite that now devoured their kin. The air was thick with the acrid scent of ozone, and the cavern's hum vibrated through Silas's bones, amplifying the horror of his findings. Captain Zaraval stood nearby, her armored suit glowing with spiritual circuits. The Echo crystal clutched tightly in her hand. Its pulse synced with her heartbeat, sending a shiver through her as it whispered fragments of Aetheris's past. She felt a visceral connection, not just to the Elowen, but to the Legion itself, as if their shared lineage pulsed through her veins. "This isn't just their fight," she murmured, her pragmatic tone softening with realization. "It's ours." The crystal's visions showed her fleeting images. Elowen cities burning, souls siphoned into mechanical husks, and a distant future where humanity rose from their ashes. Her silver hair caught the cavern's light, framing a face etched with resolve and quiet dread. Sergeant Kai Thorne, his scarred frame taut, darted through the cavern's shadows, leading a rescue team to free more trapped souls. His light armor clinked softly, his energy rifle humming as he activated a micro-loop, resetting a 10-second window to evade a swarm of husks. "Round 4, let's make it quick," he quipped, his humor a thin veil over the fear knotting his chest. The loop let him perfect the rescue, shattering a containment unit to release a cluster of flickering essences. Each reset left him paler, his scars glowing brighter from temporal strain. But he pressed on, driven by the faint hope of saving one more soul. "Gotta keep the score high," he muttered, though his grin faltered as a husk claw grazed his arm. Lyriel, her translucent form dimmer than ever, stood atop a crystal outcrop, her tendrils weaving patterns of light. Her foresight flickered, revealing a chilling truth. The Legion's existence was tied to a temporal loop, a cycle of creation and destruction that bound the Elowen to their descendants. "The echoes form a circle," she said, her voice a poetic lament resonating through the cavern. "We birth them, and they devour us. Yet you are our future." Her words hung heavy, her 2-meter frame trembling as she shared her vision with Zara. The captain's jaw tightened, the echo crystal's pulse amplifying Laeral's warning of a destiny inescapable. A memory surged through Silas, sharp and vivid, from the Nexus's archives. Millennia after Aetheris' fall, Elowen survivors had seeded humanity's evolution, their spiritual essence blending with primitive biology on distant worlds. Over 10,000 years, their descendants built the Nexus, its time gates a testament to their inherited resilience. "We're their echo," Silas said, his voice low, sharing the revelation with the team. "Every leap we take ties us tighter to them." The memory grounded their mission, the cavern's oppressive air a reminder of the stakes. The team pressed deeper, integrating more Elowen into their hybrid ranks. In a ritual chamber, Lyriel channeled her fading energy to bind additional warriors, their human forms glowing as Elowen essence fused with their neural networks. These new hybrids, stronger and faster, wielded weapons that pulsed with dual light, their strikes cutting through husks with lethal precision. Zara watched, her pragmatic heart stirred by their unity. Though the strain on Lyriel was evident, only 1 hour of energy left in her core. "We're stronger together," Zara said, her voice firm, gripping a hybrid blade that hummed with shared power. The Legion, sensing the threat, retreated into a parallel dimension, a warped realm accessible through a rift in the cavern's deepest chamber. The team followed, stepping into a landscape of fractured realities, where the ground shimmered like broken glass, and the air buzzed with distorted echoes. The dimension, spanning an unmeasurable expanse, twisted light and sound, disorienting even the hybrids. Zara led the charge, her suit's circuits flaring as she navigated the maze. "Stay sharp, no mistakes," she ordered, her voice cutting through the surreal hum. Kai's loop struggled here, the dimension's chaos disrupting his resets, forcing him to rely on instinct. A brutal ambush erupted. Husks, their forms even more grotesque in this warped realm, surged from the shadows, their claws slicing through the air. A hybrid warrior, newly forged, fell to a precise strike, his essence siphoned into the Legion's core. Zara's heart clenched as she knelt beside him, his light fading in seconds. "You gave us a chance," she whispered, her voice steady despite her grief. The loss fueled their resolve, the hybrids fighting back with ferocity, their weapons shattering husks in bursts of light. Kai reset one last time, saving another warrior, but collapsed, his body trembling from the strain. The echo crystal flared, carrying a whisper from Aetheris' past. "We are one, creators and created," it warned, a chilling reminder of the Elowen's role in the Legion's birth. Lyriel's tendrils dimmed, her foresight clouded by the shared guilt of their origins. "Our hubris binds us all," she said, her voice a faint melody. Zara gripped the crystal, its pulse urging them forward. The dimension's fractured landscape loomed, the Legion's core pulsing somewhere beyond, a dark heart waiting to be stopped. The team braced for the next leap, their unity tested by sacrifice and the haunting echo of a shared beginning. The fractured dimension pulsed with chaotic energy, its mirror-like landscape shattering under the weight of the Legion's relentless advance. At its heart, a massive time gate, 20 meters wide, flickered to life, its vortex of light and shadow tearing at the fabric of reality. Captain Zara Voss stood at its edge, her armored suit blazing with spiritual circuits, her silver hair whipping in the temporal winds. Her voice cut through the chaos, sharp and unyielding. "Activate the gate, now," she commanded, her pragmatic resolve masking a flicker of doubt about the destiny they were forging. The air crackled with ozone, the ground trembling as the gate's energy destabilized the dimension. Hybrid warriors, their forms glowing with Elowen essence, fought to hold the line, their weapons humming against a tide of husks that surged from every shattered facet. Sergeant Kai Thorne, his scarred face pale from temporal strain, dove into micro-loops, resetting 10-second windows to shield his team. "One more reset, one more save," he muttered, his humor a fragile mask as he dodged a claw that grazed his armor. His energy rifle fired precise bursts, shattering husks, but each loop left him weaker, his scars glowing like embers. "Can't keep dancing forever," he gasped, collapsing briefly before forcing himself upright, driven by loyalty to his squad. The hybrids fought beside him, their enhanced strength barely holding back the Legion's onslaught, the air thick with the screech of metal and the fading light of stolen souls. Dr. Silas Reed knelt beside the gate's control matrix, a twisted amalgamation of Legion tech and Elowen crystal, buried 3 meters deep in the dimension's core. His cybernetic hand whirred, hacking into the Legion's source code, a dangerous gamble that risked corrupting his own neural network. "Their origin signal is here," he said, his analytical voice trembling with urgency. "If I can invert it, we stop them at the root." His holographic glasses flickered, data streams revealing the Legion's birth in the Soul Forge, a mistake that echoed through time. The hack's strain pulsed through him, his vision blurring as fragments of stolen Elowen memories flooded his mind, each a scream of betrayal. A memory surged through Zara, sharp and undeniable, from the Nexus's deepest archives. 5,000 years hence, Elowen survivors had seeded humanity, their spiritual essence evolving into the crew standing here now. "We're their children," Zara whispered, her grip tightening on the Echo crystal, its pulse confirming their lineage. The revelation hit like a shockwave. Their mission wasn't just salvation, but self-preservation, a loop binding them to their ancestors. Her pragmatic facade cracked, loyalty to her team and her origins warring within her. The crystal flared, amplifying the truth. She and her crew were the Elowen's future, fighting to ensure their own existence. Lyrael, her translucent form nearly fading, stood at the gate's heart, her tendrils weaving a final act of sacrifice. "The gate requires a soul to open," she said, her voice a poetic whisper, like leaves falling in an eternal forest. She channeled her essence into the vortex, her 2-meter frame trembling as her light dimmed to a flicker. "For Aetheris, for you," she intoned, her holographic cloak dissolving as her soul poured into the gate, stabilizing its chaotic energy. The act saved the mission but ended her, her final pulse a beacon of hope that lit the dimension. Zara's heart clenched, her voice breaking. "You won't be forgotten," she vowed, her words heavy with grief. The Legion countered with ferocity, a swarm of husks flooding the dimension, their numbers doubling to thousands in seconds. Their claws tore through the air, their cores pulsing with stolen Elowen light, threatening to collapse the gate. The hybrids fought desperately, their weapons carving paths of destruction, but the tide was overwhelming. Kai reset again, his body shaking, saving a hybrid from a fatal strike. "Not today," he gasped, his humor gone, replaced by grim determination. The dimension's fractured ground cracked further, shards flying as the Legion pressed closer, their screeches drowning out the gate's hum. Lyrael's fading foresight sparked a vision, a twist that rippled through the team. She saw the loop's truth. The crew's intervention was the catalyst for the Elowen's survival, ensuring their evolution into humanity. "You are us, reborn," her final whisper echoed, carried by the crystal. The revelation stunned Zara, her doubt crystallizing into purpose. They weren't just saviors, they were the Elowen's destiny, closing a cycle that birthed them. The gate pulsed brighter, its vortex widening, but the Legion's assault intensified, forcing a brutal choice: stabilize the gate or lose everything. Tension peaked as Zara faced the decision. "Hold the line," she roared, her suit flaring as she fought to protect the gate. Silas's hack faltered, the risk of corruption spiking to 42%. "We're out of time," he warned, his voice hoarse. Kai, nearly broken by resets, stood firm, his rifle blazing. The hybrids, outnumbered, fought with desperate unity, their Elowen essence glowing defiantly. The gate's energy surged, threatening to collapse the dimension, the air thick with the scent of burning crystal and twisted metal. The echo crystal flared, a voice from the future urging them on. "Complete the cycle," it whispered, a call to sacrifice and victory. Zara's resolve hardened, her silver hair glinting in the vortex light. Kai staggered, his final reset saving Silas from a husk's claw. Silas pushed through, his hack aligning the gate's frequency to the Legion's origin. Lyriel's sacrifice held the vortex open, her light a fading star. The team stood on the brink, their unity tested by the dimension's chaos, driven by an echo that demanded they seal their fate and their ancestors' survival. The Time Gate's vortex roared, a 20-meter maelstrom of light and shadow that tore through the fractured dimension, its energy shaking the crystalline ground. Captain Zara Voss stood at its heart, her armored suit blazing with spiritual circuits, silver hair glowing in the vortex's ethereal light. The gate's pulse synchronized with the echo crystal in her hand, its power reversing the Legion's invasion at its source. 300 cycles passed. The air thrummed with a deep resonance, the scent of ozone and crystal dust thick as reality itself bent. Hybrid warriors, their forms radiant with Elowen essence, held back the final wave of husks, their weapons carving arcs of light through the chaos. Zara's voice, steady despite the weight of destiny, rang out. "Hold the gate! We end this now!" Her pragmatic heart, once shadowed by doubt, burned with certainty. She was no mere savior, but a link in an eternal chain. The crystal flared, its visions flooding Zara's mind with a staggering truth. Her crew, humanity itself, were the Elowen's evolved descendants, forged through millennia of survival and adaptation. "We're them," she whispered, her voice soft but heavy, like a stone dropped into still water. The revelation rippled through her, binding her to Aetheris's past and her own future. The gate's energy surged, erasing the Soul Forge's catastrophic birth, unraveling the Legion's existence. The dimension trembled, its fractured facets collapsing as the timeline realigned, the husk dissolving into sparks of fading light. Sergeant Kai Thorne, his scarred face pale from countless resets, leaned against a crystal shard, his light armor scorched. "So we're the grandkids who saved the family reunion?" he quipped, his humor a faint spark in his exhausted eyes. His final micro-loop had saved a hybrid from a collapsing rift, but the strain left him trembling, his scars glowing like embers. "Didn't see that twist coming," he added, a grin breaking through despite the pain. His jest lightened the moment, a fleeting reminder of the resilience that carried them through. Dr. Silas Reed, his cybernetic hand still whirring from the hack, stood before the gate's control matrix, its data streams now silent. "The cycle's complete," he said, his analytical tone softened by awe. His holographic glasses flickered, confirming the timeline stabilization. No trace of the Legion remained in Aetheris's past. "We closed the loop, but it was always us," he murmured, his mind grappling with the paradox of their existence. The Nexus's archives, 5,000 years hence, would record this moment as the pivot of humanity's birth, a debt paid to their Elowen forebears. A memory surfaced, vivid and solemn, of the Nexus's founding. Elowen survivors fleeing Aetheris's ruin had seeded humanity across distant stars, their spiritual essence blending with biology over 10,000 years. Their legacy built the time gates, enabling this intervention that ensured their survival. "We exist because we fought," Zara said, her voice low, the crystal's pulse affirming the truth. The flashback grounded their victory, a testament to the sacrifices that wove their lineage through time. Aetheris emerged from the gate's light, its plains restored to vibrant greens and blues, the grand spire gleaming under the twin suns. The Elowen, freed from the Legion's grasp, gathered in harmony, their translucent forms pulsing with renewed life. Their sacred towers, each 100 meters tall, hummed with energy, their cores linked to the planet's heart once more. The air carried a soft hymn, a melody of peace reborn, as the Elowen rebuilt their world, unaware of the future descendants who secured their survival. Lyriel's sacrifice, her soul fueling the gate, lingered in the crew's hearts. Another hybrid had fallen in the final stand, their essence fading to hold the line. Their light lives in Aetheris, Zara said, her voice steady but heavy, honoring the cost that ensured their future. Kai nodded, his humor silenced, while Silas adjusted his glasses, his analytical mind cataloging the debt they owed. The hybrids, now fewer, stood as a bridge between past and future, their existence proof of the loop's closure. The twist of their shared destiny hit with quiet force. The crew's intervention was no accident, but a self-fulfilling prophecy, a cycle where they saved their ancestors to birth themselves. The Echo crystal pulsed one final time, its light soft but eternal. "We shaped our own fate," Zara said, her words a solemn vow, the crystal dimming in her hand. The revelation left a chill, a reminder that destiny was a tapestry woven by their own hands, each thread a choice, each knot a sacrifice. The echoes of eternity whispered a final truth, linking past and future in an unbroken chain. Aetheris thrived, its people carrying the spark that would become humanity, their evolution a testament to resilience and connection. The crew stood in silence, the weight of their victory settling like dust after a storm. They had not just saved a world but ensured their own existence, a cycle closed by courage and loss. The plains stretched before them, vibrant and alive, the hymn of the Elowen rising softly, a melody that would echo through millennia, binding all who heard it to the eternal loop of creation and redemption. The plains of Aetheris shimmered, restored under twin suns, the Elowen's hymn rising like a gentle tide. Zara stood silent, the echo crystal dim in her hand, its final whisper fading. Their sacrifices, Lyriel's soul, fallen hybrids, wove a future where humanity would rise from Elowen roots. The cycle closed, a destiny self-forged through courage and loss. The grand spire glowed, a beacon of peace reborn. The crew, bound by blood and time, left Aetheris to thrive, their legacy an eternal echo. Through connection and sacrifice, they proved, "We shape our fate, linking past to forever."